Intel's doing it, apparently. I mean,
They're back, babe. I mean, this is I can't remember who I discussed this with, but Intel is 2 things, right? They're even though they've always been one thing.
mhm.
Like if you go back to like the Pentium, right, or prior, Intel designed chips and they built them. That's how we think of a chip maker,
Yep.
right? They did. Today, most chip designers do not make the thing physically. They go to a third party like TSMC or whatever, typically TSMC, although Samsung is also in there and, whatever.
Global Foundries in that list, and
Yeah. And, it's a different world, right? So I can draw all these parallels between like Intel and like Nokia is a good example, like kind of an old school way of doing things. And that's not how companies like that do things anymore. And that's why Nokia is not doing it anymore. So anyway, the outcome for Intel is almost certainly going to be either they're a chip designer,
mhm.
in which case they are very small, or they are a chip foundry, like a chip maker, and their success will be based on whether they can get customers
Yep.
to use their facilities, right? And they could become big again, or to continue being big, right? Intel wants both, like
Right.
they want to do both, but I don't think that's how it's going to work, and we'll see. But
Yeah, there was a headline too, which I think this is actually really a non-headline, if I'm being honest here. It said
mhm.
that Intel's foundry lost the PlayStation 6 chip, whatever
Mhm.
thing. They were never going with anybody other than AMD. Like,
Well, I mean, so that's a lot of people are saying that, but I have look. It makes sense for Intel to try it. This is a business they could take. This is a way they could grow, right?
mhm.
It would be a nice PR win, no doubt about it, right? Assuming the chips work.
Yep.
Um, it would be it would show confidence from a third party that's going to ship something in volume that Intel can do this thing, right? Um, from Sony's perspective, it makes sense that
Does it?
they should, yeah, because they should try to get the best price they can get and the best technology for that price, right? And if Intel
However,
has advanced,
however, on the flip side of that, you are Sony. You're
yeah,
sitting there and saying, "Look, our bread and butter, besides financial services and insurance, is
mhm,
the PlayStation 6.
yep.
Do we want to risk that on a partner that is untested for
Well,
our new product?"
no, but this isn't like a weird one-off architecture. I mean, it's not like AMD like invented something new for Sony per se. They've collaborated on some offshoot of x86, right? I
Hmm.
mean, um, look, I one of the things that gets lost in this whole year of misery for Intel and then the decade that preceded it, where people like me and Microsoft would have said, "When the F are you gonna wake up and make more mobile efficient chips?"
Hmm.
And they kept shooting for we used to call the megahertz wars, if you remember that.
Yep.
Um, is that Intel actually has amazing engineering capacity and capabilities and people, and Ryan Shrout, you can talk to a guy like that. In fact, you could probably walk 2 blocks and find him. I think he lives
Hmm.
near you. Uh, and discover that this company is in fact actually very capable. They just aren't going after the right targets or whatever. So, you know, look, we'll see how it's still early. We don't know yet, but coming out of IFA, one of the things I kind of learned was that it looks like Intel kind of nailed it with Lunar Lake. Um, and now we'll have Arrow Lake, right? Yeah, which is
Hmm.
kind of the higher performance and slash desktop versions. Um, technically, I you could talk. Ryan says anyway that Intel is actually way ahead of AMD. So it's possible that we don't know what the internal thing is with those guys. AMD could be holding Sony back for all we know. There could be issues neither has ever raised publicly about that partnership that Sony is not happy with, right? We don't know. So, I mean, it's not like, look, this story didn't come from bobsrumormill.com. It came from Reuters. They're not rumor
Yeah.
mongers. They cite sources. Like I don't know. We could be cynical about it, but I think from a business perspective for Intel and Sony, it makes sense to at least explore this possibility.
Oh, I'm sure they explored it, and I'm sure they evaluated it. But from a business risk perspective, Sony can go to AMD and be like, look, we know what we're gonna get, and
Yeah.
it's worked.
Yeah. I know. But my point is we don't know that they're actually very happy with what they've gotten so far, nor are they happy with what they think they're getting for this next one. Like maybe, like, you know what I'm saying? Like literally part of it could be, yeah, they've been okay, but we need more than this now or something. I don't know. I don't know. Just saying.
We'll see.
Anyway, look, Intel needed some good news.
Yes, they
The
did.
Sony story was not it.
No, but they did get an
Um,
AWS one with Amazon.
yeah. And, you know, now I'm going to be cynical and say two American companies that could benefit from, say, subsidies, loans, and less antitrust oversight have partnered to appease the U.S. government and keep things that are important in-house, meaning in the country, in Ohio, by the way, speaking of
Yep.
Ohio.
Yep.
Um, there's some nationalistic, jingoistic possibilities in there too, but they needed this win. It's good for everybody. And like I keep saying, like even if you hate Intel for some reason, you don't want this company to fall off a
No, no,
cliff.
no. I definitely,
You,
yeah, I'm
you
definitely
don't.
not in that camp. I mean, I hope Intel
No, I know you're
figures it
not. I
out and
mean,
becomes
no, but
back
people
on
there,
track.
there are people like that, and
Yeah.
you be careful, about what you wish for and so forth. So, um, anyway, they needed some good news. Also, if you haven't, you should go to Intel.com and look up there were three news releases yesterday. One was there's a chips 3 billion something additional money heading toward them potentially from the Chips Act, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Amazon deal, right? Custom AI fabric chip, and then more. They also make custom Xeon chips apparently for AMD, for AWS, and there'll be more of that. But the first of the three is this. I've spoken to the board letter from Pat Gelsinger, and he talks about the path forward, which is I think a step toward that thing I was talking about. Like, I think eventually these guys, there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be Intel Design, Intel Foundry are going to be two different companies. So right now it's just going to be a subsidiary. But the one thing I like about that announcement, and because it's framed as a letter from him, is he really kind of tackles the bad news and the micro the microscope, I guess, the magnifying glass or whatever they're under right now in the press, and he kind of just talks about that. And that kind of, I don't know, plain spoken transparency thing.
Yeah.
That to me I like a lot, and I think it
It only
speaks
cost
well.
you like $100 million to get that.
He's
Per,
been sounding the alarm since he got there. You
yeah,
got to
yeah, I know, I
remember,
know.
I
It's
mean, right?
he's
It's
got
not. We
he's
we tend to, I don't know what you call it, like personalized businesses. We're like Microsoft. Why are they doing stuff to the start menu in Windows? They should be doing this. And
mm,
it's like, the goons doing the start menu stuff can't solve the problem you're talking about. They're not related. It's a giant company. So
right.
when we say like Intel, they've done things wrong for so long. You got to remember this guy came in to turn that around. I'm not saying he's right about everything, although it's sort of like, well, Stephen E. Lup's turnaround plan for Nokia, actually, right? You look at it, and you're like, okay, yeah, we know what happened in history. That's unfair, but
Yeah.
given the choices, you're like, well, I can understand why they went in the direction they did, right?
Oh, sure. I think
Obviously,
most people can agree that the path that Intel was on for the past 7 years or so was not a sustainable path for the next 70 years. So some
yeah,
dramatic decisions have to be made, and they have to be made sooner rather than later. We don't know
yep.
if they're the right decisions, but things had to change because
You know,
x86 is not the future forever.
right. Inertia as a business strategy is a temporary
Right.
condition. It may work for a little while. It's working for Windows pretty well, by the way. Although, again, this year we're going to see, now that they've changed the way they report where revenues come from. I'm going to be really curious to see what the um, non-commercial services revenues of Windows look like. I
I hate
expect.
that sentence, by the way.
I know. I'm sorry, but the I just I
It's
hate
not
the
your.
whole
It's not
concept.
Paul's sentence,
No,
by the way.
I
That
know.
is.
I hate it. As I said that, I was like, but it's going to be interesting because that could be very small,
Hmm.
which I think will highlight the problem. I mean, when why does Microsoft do what they do? Blah blah blah. Whatever. There are darker forces
Yeah.
arrayed against this product than maybe we know. So anyway, it's a big terrible world out there.
Yeah, what most people probably don't really think about is Microsoft shipping, let's say, theoretical Windows 12. Their partners will make more money than Microsoft will. Selling hardware, selling services, getting people to migrate.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, this is the whole that's what, look, Copilot Plus PC is kind of a terrible brand. They
is
were
it
kind of
is it
stuck.
terrible or is it just the worst terrible most?
Okay,
Well,
yeah, so I was gonna say it is literally terrible. Yeah, it might be one of the worst ones ever. But the goal of this, they had to come up with a name. Okay, so they're not good at that. But the goal here was to lift the industry, right? You can't look at Copilot Plus PC or Recall or any of those features and think, oh, Microsoft has this plan to directly raise revenues in Windows because they're going to sell more licenses of this
Mhm.
thing. It's like, yeah, sort of. But really, this is about the broader industry. It's about like, how do you like think about the netbook that which the PC makers just latched onto like locusts did more to harm that business than anything that Apple's ever done because it drove the average selling price of PCs not just down, but like way down. And they have spent has it been 20 years? I think, whatever number of years since then, clawing back, trying to convince people in an era where even those crappy PCs last forever that they should spend money on something new. It's hard and more money, right? And so Copilot Plus PC is just the latest in a long series of initiatives. Ultrabook was one from Intel. There's a bunch, but for the whole industry to kind of get back to a point where PCs can actually be profitable, where people are buying decent PCs, not pieces of crap just to get by with. Um, it's a whole it's a whole ecosystem of terrible, and it takes a long time to get back from that. I'm not even sure they're 100% back.
You just said a lot of valuable words, but the only thing that's stuck in my brain right now is that horrific Microsoft marketing campaign that was PC does what?
Oh my god! You know what the worst one that was the dancing schoolgirls with the
Oh, the keyboard.
click it in or whatever.
I at
How
least
about to the
got like
cloud? To the cloud was a good one.
yeah.
What was the last good Microsoft marketing message? Actually, you know what? I'm a PC was a good one. That would
Yeah.
and a belated retort to the I'm a Mac stuff, right? So that was
Or
good.
you know what else? You know what else was a good one? Was it Windows 7?
Hmm.
Windows 7 was my idea, wasn't that one?
Yeah, but then there was the college. Yes, it was, but there was the college video thing, whatever it was called. It did the the spoof of it, and it was like I think Windows 7. It's like a bunch of people saying what they think it should be, and then at the end you see this like robot with all this crap
Oh
hanging
yeah,
off of
yeah.
it, and it's like Windows 7 was my idea, and it like falls over, But yes, the notion, the highly ironic notion was that somehow Steven Sinofsky's version of the Windows team was listening to feedback and delivering what people wanted.
Well, I know what the also
That's
the
just so
idea
funny.
of whose idea was Windows 8 then? Like that
Yeah, exactly. Windows 8 was no one's idea, and you just saw like a raving maniac in like a vest in the corner of a room, like just
there
rocking.
should have been a
You
parody
know,
of that of just a bunch
It's-
of people in a room pointing at the other person. Just
yeah, just like it goes in a circle back to the first person. I don't know. They tried.
yeah, they do. They they try with not a lot of common sense, I think is the
They shot for the moon, and it did that little farting sound and fell over. I don't know what to tell you.
yeah, I don't
It's
think they made it out of
they
orbit.
yeah, just I don't know what happened there, but oh well.
Oh well. Everybody can go download iOS 18.
Yes. Oh man.